tribute to this banner. So we're going to do a little science today. We have our thinking caps on. About 1/3 of you have your thinking caps on. Let's work on that. So let me start by saying, in a recent Atlantic article entitled, "Scientists Found Ripples in Space and Time and You Still Have to Buy Groceries," astrophysicist Adam Frank reflects on the astonishing findings released last summer about the detection of cosmic background ripples in the structure of space and time. Okay, so why you have to have your thinking caps on. It's going to get a little wild for a minute. Over 100 years after Einstein proposed that space and time were actually a single entity, space-time, comprising a, this is a quote, "flexible fabric that could be stretched and compressed, bent and warped by matter." You got that? Now it seems to have been proven true. In essence, you can make space and time wave. These waves are called gravitational waves and have been the stuff of astrophysical speculation for a century. But now, thanks to the North American Nanohertz Observatory for Gravitational Waves, NanoGrav, if you want to be in the know, we can observe them. We can see or hear or measure, I'm not sure what's the right word here, background waves created by all the super violent crashes and smashes that made the universe, including black holes colliding, galaxies merging, even the biggest bang of all, the Big Bang. We can now observe those things and observe them continuing to ripple through the universe today. Now, I know you are wondering, how did this happen? I want to know the science details. Well, here you go. In this case, scientists spent 15 years measuring the emissions of rapidly rotating neutron stars known as pulsars. And apparently, this was news to me, pulsars emit radio waves at extremely regular frequencies, like enormous cosmic clocks. Tick, tock, tick, tock. And so what the scientists did was track the tiny changes in those bursts over this long period, 15 years, to see that the changes that they observed were linked between these various pulsars. A little blip here was related to a little blip here, and over time, collecting that massive amounts of data on these blips, scientists were able to conclude that the ripples were not emanating from a single thing, but rather reflected like a hum, a background noise. Again, a quote, overlapping echoes of disturbances scattered across the universe. Okay, this is getting really profound. You still need your science caps on. Frank's point in the article was not just to point out that this had happened, although that's important. It's a discovery that has huge implications for the ongoing study of the universe and its origins, but also that it told us something important about ourselves. I'm going to read it to you in his words, and this is a very long quote, but I just couldn't cut it down because it's all so amazing and worthy of hearing. So here's what he has to say. Over the course of a decade and a half, the NanoGrav team pored over their machines, their numbers, and their mathematical theory to bring us proof that something miraculous, something wonderful is happening right under our noses. Actually, it's happening to our noses and the rest of our body as well. Every gravitational wave in that background that the NanoGrav team found is humming through the very constitution of the space you inhabit right now. Which means every proton and neutron, every atom in you, from the tip of your toes to the top of your head, is shifting, shuttling, and vibrating in a collective purr within which the entire history of the universe is implicated. I'm going to keep going. I really like this guy. If you put your hand down on a chair or table or anything else, that object too is dancing that slow waltz. Which means all of a sudden we know that we are humming in tune with the entire universe, and that each of us contains the signature of everything that has ever been. It is all within us, around us, pushing us to and fro as we hurtle through space. Today, gifted with a new understanding of the architecture of the universe, each of us has an opportunity to revisit that wonder. So take a look around. Right now, take a look around. Ponder how the solid-seeming ground beneath your feet or pew beneath your body is quietly shaking with the force of billions of years of cosmic collisions. The universe is an impossibly vast symphony of cause and effect. And the endless comings and goings of galaxies, stars, and planets create a melding of songs that you are part of too. This discovery exposes the intricacy and gracefulness of that melding and is a reminder that the world has always been and always will be worthy of wonder, and so are you. So I've got to ask, how does that make you feel? You are worthy of wonder. You are part of the cosmic symphony. Did you wake up this morning thinking, I feel like a small part of the cosmic symphony? Yes, oh good. You are a dance partner to all that is and ever has been, right? That's pretty cool. I hope you feel amazed, because it is amazing. And yet, we're still mostly going about our day like nothing happened. It's so interesting. We're running errands, we're raking leaves. We're mostly not feeling amazed. Isn't that interesting? But, and this seems to be Frank's point, we should be at least periodically, to the extent we are able, overwhelmed by the wonder of it all. So if you're not periodically overwhelmed by the wonder of it all, you got to change your spiritual habits a little bit. Another point that he wants to make is, isn't it great to feel small sometimes? Isn't it great to just feel like you are a tiny part of the universe, but you're still a part, just a tiny part, right? So that's good. That's an important spiritual discipline too, feeling small. And speaking of spiritual disciplines, if you're sitting there thinking, this all sounds kind of Star Trek-y, Pastor Liz, and I'll admit that a bend in space-time does sound like something that Captain Kirk, or Captain Picard, or Captain Janeway, depending what generation of Trekker you are, sounds like something they would go on about. If you're wondering why I'm telling you this on the third Sunday of Advent, for goodness sakes, when we should be talking about miraculous God babies and virgins giving birth and such, I'm going to tell you this. I'm telling you about all this because I think this is exactly what Mary is talking about in her famous song we heard today, the Magnificat. My soul magnifies the Lord. Now, perhaps that deserves some explanation. If I had thought of it, the title of the sermon in the bulletin would have been The Astrophysical Implications of Mary's Magnificat. I didn't get to it quite in time before they printed it. So the last few weeks, if you've been here, we're following the nativity story as Luke tells it. From the Annunciation to Zechariah about John's birth, to the Annunciation to Mary about Jesus' birth, and through Mary's flight to Elizabeth's house and the shelter of that shared experience of their pregnancies together. And we've gone on this journey with the particular purpose of answering the question, which is the theme for our season, how does a weary world rejoice? How do we celebrate in a difficult or uncertain or tiresome time? And I really think that Mary's song offers us a particular answer to this. Think about this. She arrives on Elizabeth's doorstep, and Elizabeth greets her, "Blessed are you among women." Nobody ever says that to me when I come home. "Blessed are you." And Mary receives that blessing and then responds with this song that we just heard Tommy Jane read. And I have to say, as I often do say, this has not always made a huge amount of sense to me, right? She's just like a few months pregnant. She's unwed. She's fled to her cousin's house. What are they going to do? They don't know. They're in this strange sort of limbo. And her first response is to go on and on about all the great things that God will do through this baby's life, expressing them as though they already happened. Has anybody ever thought about this before? At least that's the traditional interpretation of this strange mixed verb forms we find in Mary's song. Now, the NRSV, the version that we tend to use in the Presbyterian Church, obscures this. Now, what is it? A grammarian, a grammatician, people who are into grammar. They use the perfect tense in the NRSV. God has looked with favor. God has scattered the proud. God has brought down the powerful. But the Greek actually doesn't say that. It really supports a simple past tense. God looked upon me with favor. God scattered the proud. Already, God brought down the powerful. One might imagine your English teacher going through this whole thing with a red pen, like inconsistent. So what's Mary doing here? I mean, she didn't have a crystal ball, which was allowed her to see all that would happen in and through Jesus' life, right? How would she know what would happen? And it makes me think that something else is going on, and here's what I think it is. When Mary sings the Magnificat, she's all of a sudden zooming way out. She's all of a sudden gone from her particular experience to looking at the big picture, right? My soul magnifies the Lord. My soul megafies, right? She's all of a sudden on a very large scale. She's commenting on the present, looking back at what's happened in the past, and hoping for the future all at the same time. She's seeing that they are connected and part of one ongoing melody. A lot of people want to point out that Mary's song echoes her foremother Hannah, who spoke similar words over the birth of her child 1,000 years earlier. Which makes me sure that Mary is looking back, thinking about all the amazing things God has already done, rescuing the enslaved, inverting systems of power, and lifting up the lowly. And that she's also looking forward, imagining what this baby's life might mean for the future. A world in which the poor are blessed, in which the righteous are filled with good things, right? She's zooming way out. She's connecting her immediate individual circumstance to the broader story of God's purpose in the world. Seeing her experience as not just one thing, but connected to this narrative and to the fate of everything that is. Which I think is a pretty good strategy for holding on to hope when things seem uncertain or dim. I mean, I wonder if you ever find that sometimes if you're just looking at the situation right in front of you, it can seem pretty bleak. Has everybody ever had that? Like, I'm just looking at what's right in front of me. It's not looking too good. But if you zoom out sometimes and allow yourself to be amazed how big and wonderful God's creative activity really is, if you begin and teach yourself to see this moment as but one thread in a larger tapestry, it is true that all of a sudden things can start seeming a little bit less overwhelming. Maybe you do that a few times and you even start to feel amazed, which is one step along the pathway to joy. And I think, I don't know, we could try it. If we apply the diligence of our scientist friends who showed up to work every day for 15 years to look at these tiny things and record them over this long time, if we applied their diligence and did this over and over again for years, zooming out, getting this perspective as our experience part of the broader story, I think we would likely become pretty joyful people, pretty amazed people, probably pretty faithful people. Because that practice of going back and forth between these perspectives, changing the magnification on our lives from time to time, is part of what we need to have faith. Now, I know a few of you have been gathering with us on Thursday mornings for the last few months talking about how new scientific models of understanding the universe can help inform our theological language. And at the beginning of each video module that we've been watching in that series is a quote from Vincent van Gogh. Whenever I find myself in need of, dare I say, religion, I go out and paint the stars. Which on the face might sound a little facetious, but I think it contains deep wisdom. I think it points toward what we do when we're seeking out the fruits of faith, comfort, and assurance, and connection, and reconciliation. I think one component of that has to be awe. One component of that has to be wonder. Has to be able to switch between the macro and the micro scale, looking at the night sky, or looking into the face of a newborn. I think when we allow ourselves to be amazed, When we make space for that in our lives, we let the singer and the song become part of us. And we are made ready to receive that specific melody we are longing to hear, especially in this season of Advent. So my charge to you in this time is simply this: go out. Look at the stars. Not right now. Wait till nighttime. Wait till the end of the atmospheric river. Or move to New Mexico and look at the stars, right? Feel the rhythm of creation that is humming in you. Zoom out, look back. Maybe just consider the wonderful things God has done for you in your life and understand this moment is just one part of the story. Look forward at all that you hope God will do. And let that shifting, let that practice of awe fill you with tidings of comfort and joy in this holy time. We ask the blessing of the God who created us, redeemed us, and sustained us always on this